Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. Social entrepreneurs in our community share their stories of how they are changing the world and building a legacy of health, wealth, happiness, and wellness. I'm your host, Wendie V, along with my co-host, Rodrigo Bravo. Together, we're social entrepreneurs building a collective of impactful humans who are going to make this world a better place. We hope you'll join us. Here's today's episode. Today, we're talking about living in alignment. How do you know if you are living in alignment with your vision and your values? How do you make sure that you assess the right opportunities for you and take action when it's the right time? That's what we're talking about today. Enjoy this episode. So today's topic is, am I in alignment? And we talked on Monday about motivation. Rodrigo had a really wonderful conversation. You could hear it on both of our replays and our bios. We talked about motivation in a sense of, where do you find motivation? How do you stay motivated? And when you have different things going on in your life, how do you kind of keep on that road of motivation despite, anything that might come up? So we talked about a lot of different issues in that room. So if you're interested, go over and listen to that after this room. And today we're going to continue that type of spirit of conversation about continuing being motivated. And one of the ways to stay motivated is when you know you're in alignment with your purpose, when you know your vision is there ahead of you and you're working towards it, and you can see tangible things happening to bring that vision closer to you. And that might be alignment spiritually, it might be alignment energy-wise, it might be alignment in terms of people that are coming to you or tasks and type of work that is coming your way. Lots of different ways to be in alignment. It also might be just in the day when you're in a flow state and you're working through whatever task it is that you're working on, and you get through it really quickly and you look up and you go, oh, that was really easy. And you feel like, well, maybe that was easy because I really enjoyed what I was doing. So that's what we're talking about today in this room. It's called, Am I in Alignment? So today's question that I thought of was, how do you know when you're in alignment? And that for me is a really good question. I've been trying to figure out. We have other rooms where we've talked about making decisions with intentionality, listening to your instincts and going forward from there. And I think for me, when I feel like I'm most in alignment, it's when I'm following my instincts. And as I'm following them, more and more things happen. So I'll give you an example just to kick off the conversation as you guys, Rodrigo and GMK, feel free to think about this question. How do I know when I'm in alignment? So a couple months ago, I think it was in December, I'm here in Houston. So in December, there was an event that I saw on Eventbrite. And I just had somebody told me, hey, you were really good at networking in DC. Why don't you just go to networking events in Houston? And I had been going, but I hadn't found any networking events that I really wanted to go to. So I went online and I Googled networking events in Houston, and Eventbrite came up. On Eventbrite, there was one particular one called Los Jefes Market, which is one of the local markets. They have kind of these little craft markets all around Houston. So one of the local markets, Los Jefes Market, and they had a networking event, and it was at a local brewery that I'm familiar with called Eighth Wonder. So I knew where it was. I didn't know anybody who was there, but something said, hey, go to this thing. Just go see what this is about. There's somebody there you have to talk to. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea why I'm going to this particular networking event because it's not a traditional networking event. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know if any of them need a coach for socially conscious entrepreneurs. I have no idea what I'm going to do. But I walked in and I introduced myself to literally everybody there. Now, it wasn't very crowded, so it was pretty easy to do. By the end of the night, I knew everybody. And it turns out that the woman that I needed to meet was actually the person who puts the market on. She is the producer of this market. And she has this amazing thought process about how she wants to incorporate business support for her vendors, as well as people in the community who are trying to start businesses. And her market is all around, Latino heritage and culture and a lot of different things that really cater to the community, including she's done like voter registration and other pieces of community engagement at the markets. So very, very cool person. We ended up having a meeting about 2 or 3 weeks later, and we've been in touch. And just this week, she sent me an email and said, hey, can we talk? I want to invite you to do a workshop. at our March 12th market here in Houston. And I said, "Oh, okay, let me, hear what your idea is, and I'll let you know if I can do it." And lo and behold, it sounds like a really cool idea where she needs someone to come and talk to entrepreneurs who are starting out or trying to grow their business, and that, might need motivation or some sort of other kinds of conversations just to keep them going. So this is where we're putting together this event, and it's really kind of a cool thing to do based on the fact that I just was following my instincts to go to this particular networking event. So that's an example of alignment to me, where you know that you are following your instincts, you're doing something for your business or your nonprofit that'll help you grow. And as you do those things, you see more and more windows of opportunity coming to you. And as you see those opportunities, you're able to very easily step into them because they are aligned to your purpose, they are aligned to what you're trying to do. So that's a good example for me of recently when I felt like I was in alignment, and I did actually get proof that I was in alignment, and it's actually really kind of neat. So Rodrigo and GMK, I'm going to invite some more folks up to the stage, but if you guys want to answer the question, how do you know when you're in alignment? What does that feel like for you?
GMK, if you have an answer, I'll let you go first. If not, I can definitely go.
Okay, that's cool. For me, that's one of the reasons why I'm in this room right now. Um, I'm in alignment when I found out that everything that I'm doing in body, in mind, and in spirit is towards my goal, towards my dream, and towards my purpose. In everything that I'm doing. I am a social and tech entrepreneur, and I'm doing some amazing things, and that also reflects in, for instance, on Clubhouse, the rooms that I visit is just in line and in tune with what I do at all times. It's not just about my interest; it is about my being. I mean, what I do, what I am, and what I'm connected to. So it's beyond the interest, and that's one of the reasons I know that this is a line. My conversations, my actions, my thoughts. There is a seamless interaction between that and my choices. They all just move around, each other, and they're all connected towards my purpose and what I do. So everything for me is linked up with my work, my life, my conversations, my thought process. Um, Again, I'll say body, mind, and spirit. So that's what makes me feel strongly that I'm in alignment with my social self. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And I agree with going into spaces where you feel like that is part of, your mission, or keeping you in the place of uplifting and supporting where you're trying to go with what your journey is, and rather than kind of occupying spaces that don't fit. So I super appreciate that point. Thank you. And Lupita, Kurt, Cassidy, you guys can feel free to come up. We are talking today about how do you know when you're in alignment? So that's the first question for discussion. And what we're talking about is, energetic alignment, alignment with your work, alignment with tasks as you do them, and anything that helps you know where you're going, and that is reinforcing for you that you're in alignment. So Rodrigo, what would you say that feels like for you?
Well, what it feels like, let me give you an example. So and this is on the corporate space, working in government. So I always try to make sure that I align my values with what I'm doing, and also modeling the behavior that I expect from others onto myself. Now, I don't go around imposing people, hey, you got to be this way or this way, that, right? But I definitely like to be around people that share those common values. And so I've always said, hey, how you do anything is how you do everything. So I remember this is probably one of my better stories going through corporate ladders and stuff. I remember when I first started in the transportation industry, I had started off as a bus driver. Trust me, nobody grows up thinking, "Hey, I want to be a bus driver when I grow up." But I had gone from one industry, and I said, "I'm tired of it." Construction was just up and down. The volatility was no more. So I ended up deciding, hey, I'm going to change transportations. I went to I mean, I'm in industries. I'm sorry. I decided I was going to go change industries. I went into transportation. I thought I could put my foot in the door by becoming a bus driver, and so I did. And so here I am driving a bus, coming down from six figures down to I think it was about $12 an hour, right? And it was a humbling experience, right? But I said, hey, I'm gonna give it my shot. I think I got something here. The recruiter told me we always hire from within, so if you get your foot in the door, something will pop up. And so eventually, I did. I became a general foreman, and then a manager, and then a director, and all that good stuff, right? But before that, I was a bus driver, and so I had just graduated from the bus driving academy. I was 3 days into my very first shift, and I did my route. Everything was great. And I got off the bus barn there on the north side of Houston, walked to the train, and I was going to go to the YMCA. I had a split schedule, so I worked the morning shift and then I worked an afternoon shift. So as I got on the bus, again, freshly, I got my nice clean shirt, nice pants. Everything's fresh about me, right? Brand new guy. And this guy gets on the train and he says, "Oh man, F Metro, F this guy, blah blah blah, da da da." And I'm not gonna go into all the whole story, but at the end of the ride, and I passed up my stop, but at the end of his ride, which was at the medical center, he turned around and he said, "Man, I'm so glad you talked to me, man. I totally misunderstood what happened. I owe that bus driver an apology. I'm gonna do that tomorrow, man. I appreciate you telling me, talking to me." I said, "No, no problem, man, no problem." And basically, I treated him with kindness. He came on the train, cussing and doing this, and I treated him with kindness. I told him, "Hey, I work for Metro. Tell me what happened, man. Talk to me." And I explained the situation to him. Well, he got off the train. On the next stop, I was going to get off and head back to downtown because I had missed my stop. And during that time, a gentleman during the next stop, another gentleman came up to me and he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And I said, "Oh, my name's Rodrigo." He goes, "Man, I just saw what you did, man. You talked to that guy all the way from downtown to over here, man. You calmed him down." I said, "Oh, yeah, well, I appreciate it, man." He goes, "You ever thought about working for the rail side?" And I said, "The rail side?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah. My name is Scott Grogan. I'm the director of facilities maintenance on the rail side." I said, "Oh, wow." And he said, "Yeah, man, you're the type of person I need on my team." I said, "Really?" And then he introduced me to another gentleman, Romeo Calderon, who was the general manager of rail operations. He did something particular, but anyways, he told me, "Here's my card. Here you go. Call me tomorrow, and I'll start transferring you over there." And I told him, and again, this was limiting beliefs, right? I told him, "Well, I just started. They told me that I can't transfer over." He goes, "Son, I I am the director. You are the type of person I want on my team. So just make it happen." And sure enough, the next day, my chief, my starter chief, basically the person in that garage told me. He called me into the office. He goes, "Hey, who did you meet to?" And I told him the whole story. He goes, "Well, damn it, man, you impressed the hell out of them. Now they want to grab you up, and you'll probably end up on the rail side." And sure enough, 90 days later, I ended up on the rail side, which was something unheard of because it took 2 years for you to transfer from the bus side to the rail side because of the experience that was needed and X, Y, Z, blah blah blah, right? And so I share that story because at the end of the day, my values, I'm always trying to align myself with my values. And if I'm gonna go out there and I expect people to be kind, if I expect people to be compassionate and not avoid conflict, right? I'm a mediator, right? So my whole point is let's not avoid conflicts. Let's confront them. Let's talk about it. What can we do to resolve them? Then I got to act that out too. Otherwise, I'm not in alignment. And so when that happened, it was just a clear cut case of me being aligned with who I am, with what I believe in, and everything else aligning together with that. Because had I chosen not to tell that guy, or maybe even tell him, like, "Yeah, you're right, man. I got this shitty ass job. I can't believe it, but I'm going to make the best of it, blah, blah, blah." Who knows what have happened? Who knows what have happened? I could have gotten off, gotten my workout done, get back on the bus and like nothing. And who knows what that history was. But I didn't. I instead chose to align myself at the moment and really do what I really believed in. And by doing that, somebody else saw that and everything came into alignment. So to me, alignment is so critical, but it only happens when we do truly follow our values.
Oh, that's such a good story. I hadn't heard that story before. And I love that the person you went back to who hired you was like, oh no, I saw them steal you. And it was because you, and, you know, a really, really good reason that you showed somebody your value and they saw the value in you and said, oh no, I want that person on my team, which I think is another thing I've talked about recently on Clubhouse is the whole idea of having a team and being part of a team. And sometimes alignment does feel like the team is all moving together. I've definitely had that with my team before where people have come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, because of your leadership, now this team looks like this, whereas before it used to look like this." And just the transformation it takes when you have the right people on your team, it really is a good experience. So thanks for sharing that, Rodrigo and GMK. So I wanted to talk about again, you know, with the idea of alignment. I'm curious how your networks have helped you guys as you're going through your journey. And for me, I think my network has been a really, really big part of feeling like I'm in alignment. Sometimes it's because of the people that are coming to me, and sometimes it's because of the people that I already know. And even yesterday, I reached out to somebody in DC who's part of my network, and I said, "Hey, I know that there's another group from our network here in Houston. I'm not connected with them. Can you connect me?" And so she sends about a week later, sends a random message on Facebook to me and this other woman and says, "Hey, I think you guys needed to connect, blah, blah, blah. Here's the situation. Wendie's in Houston." And the other woman sends back this little flyer that says, "Oh, there's a networking event tomorrow at this bar, Tequila's, that's not far from my house. And you should come." And I looked at it and I said, "Oh, I've actually been to networking events from this actual, you know, group before and in the summer." And she goes, "Oh, we probably met each other and didn't even know who the other person was." So clearly this will be the second time I'm supposed to meet this woman and I need to just go and talk to her about something. So I think sometimes alignment is also when your network brings you things that show you, hey, yeah, this is the direction you need to go in, or this is what needs to happen next, and we're opening the door for you to do that. And even though I already had that door and I had, you know, I had already kind of opened it on my own, I clearly didn't step through it and make that connect, they make the connection solid enough to get to the next step. And so now that's the goal for going to this event tonight is to check in with the people that I already met. There are people at this networking event. I'm not going solo by myself again, and not knowing anybody, but I do know a few people at this event, and so I'll be able to connect with them and see what we're supposed to make happen. So that's my other story of alignment with my network. So I'm curious if Rodrigo or GMK, I know you, Rodrigo, yours was kind of a network example as well, but you have a really, really big network too. Has your network brought you things and aligned them for you as they come to you?
Oh, all the time, all the time. I mean, you know, super cliche now, right? Your network is your net worth, right? But it really is true. I mean, and I always tell folks, you know, constantly connecting with folks. You never know where the relationships will lead you, you know. And it's not about taking advantage or being manipulative. It's just simply that a lot of times in anything that we do, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And even for myself, honestly, you know, when I did get promoted that second time from a rail operator to general foreman, it was absolutely because of who I knew and not necessarily what I knew. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but the thing was nobody else knew that I could do that job. You know, and obviously everybody knows here that I'm an Excel fanatic, right? But nobody had seen me do that work, and it was because somebody else had really invested in me and say like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know, you need to give him a chance. So it was what who I knew and not exactly what I knew, even though what I knew was obviously very much in line with, you know, what the job description was and so forth. So again, leaning on your contacts, leaning on the people that you know, and really keeping those relationships alive. I know that we have so many things going on, but you just never know what's going on with somebody else's network. So for myself, you know, the people that I align with, I really do, and I try my best to be active to stay in their circle. You know, hey, how's it going? What's going on? You know, LinkedIn is a perfect tool for that. You know, even Facebook. You know, Facebook, you can put notes on there, your calendar. I'm notorious for putting all kinds of stuff on a calendar, from birth dates to notes. You know, hey, I met this person. They like the Chicago Bulls. You know, it may sound stupid, but you never know that. You know, later on, I might have tickets to the game, and I say, oh shit. I remember he likes the Bulls, and they're playing the Bulls. I'll call him up, come up, and then the conversation comes up, right? And again, it's all organic because you're making that effort to remember why the relationships are there, and that's again for everybody to connect. And so I think it's really critical to make sure that our connections are there. But one caveat to that is, or at least for me, I'll say this for me, is that they have to be the right connections and the right relationships. I'm at a point where I don't have time for terrible connections. If somebody is a terrible person or somebody is not somebody I align with, their values don't match mine, there's some gray area there, right? There's a little margin or whatnot. But if somebody's absolutely just not where I'm at, I don't need that. I frankly don't need that. And in fact, I know that there's some folks that it doesn't matter, blah blah blah, da da da. But in my mindset, I say, hey, you know what? That money's not for me. That relationship is not for me. So I'm okay. Because at the end of the day, all that energy that I invest on that one person, I can definitely invest it on somebody else. So for me, it not only are the connections important, but it's also the quality of the connections and how, again, they resonate with you as far as your values, who you are, and what you expect from other people to be. Because at the end of the day, again, your network is your net worth. And if I'm over here doing business with somebody that's completely antithetical to whatever I represent, that doesn't make sense. And it'll probably make dollars, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think that aligns with what GMK was talking about earlier, with spaces. It's also, particularly here on Clubhouse and other places in social media, spaces are the people that are in those spaces. And so if their values and their whatever ways that they work don't actually align with you, then there is going to be some sort of friction or something that comes up. So it's best to kind of stick with a network that does align as much as possible with you and your values and where you're trying to go. So GMK, do you want to add to that? Because I know that was very similar to what you were talking about. I don't know if he's there, if he had to pop off for a second, but I'm going to invite more folks up to the stage. So if you're hanging out with us, this is the Social Impact Level Up Club. And the topic today is, Am I in alignment? And we're talking about how do you know when you are in alignment and what does that feel like for you? So if anybody wants to chat, feel free to come. Oh, GMK, are you back? Do you want to add to the conversation?
I didn't hear what you said then. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the question with Rodrigo was talking about people that are in alignment with you and your values. And I know that was similar to what you were talking about with spaces. I don't know, Rodrigo, if you want to recap what you said, and we can kind of go from there.
Oh yeah. Yes. So I very much believe that for you to be in alignment, you need to be connected in every possible way in all of the things that you're doing. Like for instance, I'm always talking about body, mind, and spirit. I mean, being connected in actions, in thought, and in everything that you do. So it also has to do with the people that you interact with, your company. I mean, I'm here now because this resonates with me, with my purpose, with my direction, with my dreams. And I'm here because this is what I want to talk about. How aligned am I in my social work and thinking and impact that I want to give. So, um, being connected in all the way around and being in line with your dreams and purpose, they're very significant, and they help you to um, stay intact, and aligned, always, when everything that you're thinking, everything that you're doing, and everything that's coming out of your mouth is the same as your vision, as your mission, and your purpose. It just brings the total person, out in you. That's like, yeah, part of what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I love the addition of the mind, body, spirit connection too, because that's always something that I try to strive for is How do you connect what you're doing with your actions, with your words, with the types of spaces that you're in and the work that you're doing and the people that you're working with? And so I think that that's a really good way to think about it is, am I connected? Am I aligned spiritually with this person, or am I aligned maybe with my values or the things that I'm trying to accomplish? Or is my energy aligned with this person? And if not, those are not the types of partnerships or collaboratives or things that you want to bring into you. And I think at this point, I've been very open to the universe just deciding that for me. Because sometimes I don't always, I'm not always the best judgment of people. I always give everybody a chance equally, and it's not probably the best way to do things. And I should be more guarding of my energy and understanding what alignment feels like and what doesn't feel like. So when I'm not in alignment, I can say no to those things and I don't need to spend any energy on them. And I've increasingly been able to rely on the universe taking people away from me that are not in alignment. And what I mean by that is even, out here on Clubhouse, when you kind of connect with people or in any social media app, you connect with folks and you might say, hey, let's collab. You might give them, your calendar link or your information and say, hey, let's connect. And if that person never actually responds or doesn't connect and you don't do the thing, then you're not in alignment. And it's no point in chasing after, or, maybe they might have forgotten or whatever. But you'll encounter them again if you're meant to really work with them. They'll be around. You'll see them, you'll bump into them, or you'll come across a post and you'll remind each other of each other and you'll eventually connect. But sometimes you don't. And when you don't, I think that those are the people that maybe you weren't meant to collaborate with. And I know that's happened to me a number of times where I've been looking at people and saying, oh, we actually weren't as aligned as I thought. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't go forward with, a podcast episode or whatever we were trying to do, because it just wouldn't have been in alignment with where I was trying to go. So that's another example of how I kind of look at my network to see, where am I in alignment and how do I want to work and who do I want to work with? So maybe you want to add anything, Rodrigo.
Yeah, that's God's plan right there. That's I definitely you have to be discerning as to who you give your energy to, and that's another thing about alignment. Folks who are not there to support your vision can definitely bring you out of alignment. You're working on your vision, you have your trajectory, you have your goals, you have this, you have that, and then here comes somebody, and even if they have great intentions, right, they still may get you out of your alignment.
Yes, no, I agree. And I think that with people who, even if they have good intentions, they're in your life and you're not in alignment, sometimes it takes a while to remove yourself from those situations because you're just thinking, oh, this isn't so bad, or I see their intention is good. And, I want to give them a chance or whatever it is. And you often make several excuses before you say, oh, no, this partnership isn't going to work or this isn't going to work. And I think it's in any relationship, you have to say, like, is this in alignment or is this not in alignment with what I want to be doing or where I want to be going? And then from there, decide, what you want to do with the situation. But there is definitely a right and wrong way to exit or enter into people's lives. And so I think that that's one of the things that social media offers us is a kind of an easy exit sometimes is you just go, oh, no, I just blocked them or I just walked away. But really, what you essentially are saying to this person is, hey, we're not in alignment, and I'm taking action on that. And there's a lot of different ways to say that, but a lot of the times we don't say it explicitly. We just take action, like float away from people, stop following them, do all these things because they're not in alignment. When the real issue is not that I don't like this person or I don't see the value in this person, it's just not in alignment with me. So, Rodrigo, do you have anything else you want to add, or GMK, do you have anything you want to add? And then we'll just kind of close up the room.
Rodrigo mentioned something now which I just shared in a room not too long ago, and they were asking the question, um how can you accelerate your dreams, like how can you or achieve your dreams faster? And one of the things I said was just like what Rodrigo said just now, and that is, don't stay around people who don't share the same kinds of dreams or understand what you're trying to do, because that would not take you there faster, and that would not keep you in alignment with where you're going to. For instance, if you're a tech person, you know, you need to be in the tech space. You need to be more around the tech people so that you can be in alignment with where you're going. But if you're around people who don't understand the tech languages and a whole lot of things, it will be tough and difficult, and they're going to cost you a lot of trouble, you know. So in trying to be aligned with your mission and wanting to get your social impact moving in line with how you receive that vision, um, you try as much as possible to not stay around people who don't believe in your mission, who don't understand what you're doing, because they will keep you off your alignment, and they would not let you get there as fast as you should. They'll cause you a lot of problem. In short, that's what I wanted to add.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great ad. And you reminded me of some of the folks that you meet as you go through your journey who you think might be helpful, maybe coaches or people that you're buying programs from and things like that. And it's so important to know if their way of doing business is the way that you want to do business. Because if not, they may be teaching you skills that are kind of counterintuitive or counter your values, particularly marketing skills that just aren't the way that you want to do business. And if you're learning from those people or you're taking their courses or doing things their way, you might be doing business out of alignment with the way that your values are espoused. And so I think there's a lot of good applications of that, of what you were talking about, GMK, because you reminded me of a couple of instances that I've had in my journey where I had to select who to work with. And part of that was being selective about how I wanted to work and how I wanted to show up in places. Rodrigo, are you back? Do you want to say anything else while we close up the room?
Sure, and I apologize for that. I ended up getting a visitor right now, just out of nowhere, so I apologize for that. But I was listening into what GMK was saying and Wendie, and what you were saying, Wendie, as well. I wanted to add one last thing about alignment too, and I think this is more about, for social, for entrepreneurs like ourselves, right? And it is very critical that when we do have our networks, that we allow for both positive and negative feedback. And when we find those networks, when we find those friends, those advocates, those supporters, those people que nos van a dar apoyo, it is super important that we, kind of take out the personal from the professional, because I'm guilty of this. I'm very guilty of this. Where in the past I've received some really good advice, I've gotten some great information, but it didn't. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. Or I took it personally. It's like, well, maybe they don't, this and that. And when we're in alignment, you can tell when things are off, but you also don't want to get fooled by not supporting something because you're totally going against the grain. And so I'm a big supporter of when things are natural, when the things are happening, they happen organically. That's a sign. I don't want to go into the woo woo ness of it, right? But I definitely believe in stuff like that. And so when things are in alignment, when things kind of naturally fall in place, I really feel like that's when you need to take advantage of that. And even then, though, you will receive some feedback on it. And it's really critical that we take that feedback and try to learn from it, because the biggest thing you can do is that when somebody's trying to help you, that you kind of don't accept that help, or aren't willing to take the help, for whatever reason it may be. It doesn't matter. A lot of people, especially if you already accepted them into your circle and you're good with them, and you know that their values are good for you, and they support you, you support them, that feedback is probably coming from a good spot. So I just wanted to add that last part before you go ahead and close the room.
Oh, I love that. We recently had a blog post where I was talking about feedback because we did discuss this again in another room. And one of the things that we were talking about last time was that sometimes we filter out feedback because we just don't deem it constructive or helpful. And we don't take it and we don't listen to it because we just think it's not beneficial to us, rather than trying to look at the value in the feedback, whether that's negative or positive, but then also being open to receiving positive feedback and not deflecting. And funny enough, Rodrigo's on the phone, but I was just going to say one more story. Rodrigo sent me a very nice text the other day that gave really great positive feedback for being continually, holding these spaces and the work that we're doing here. And I think I deflected back to, you were a great team. And I didn't realize that I did that until I was working with another coach this weekend and we were talking about our development. Rodrigo, I was talking about that text that you sent me the other day. And I was working with this coach this weekend and we were talking about receiving and gratitude and things like that. And I realized that when Rodrigo sent me that text, my answer wasn't, thank you, Rodrigo. I really appreciate your kind words and, leaning into the compliment. Instead, I said, oh, Rodrigo, we're a great team, and put the compliment back on him. And it's funny because there's a lot of examples of this in our daily life where we are in alignment. Someone recognizes it. It's not something we're recognizing. So they point it out to us. And then when they point it out to us, we instantly kind of retort with, no, this is wrong and that's wrong and whatever. And I think it goes back sometimes to the perfectionism. Sometimes it goes back to our limiting beliefs or our mindset barriers or things that are going on with us. But sometimes it really literally is just you want to respond like right then, but you don't really know what to say. And that was what happened to me. So when Rodrigo sent me this really nice text, I wanted to respond right away, but I was doing a bunch of things and didn't really know what to say. And then later on, I never actually went back and acknowledged that I was grateful for the compliment. So thank you, Rodrigo. I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, Wendie, thanks a lot. I'm playing.
No. Yeah, but we are a good team. So that also still stands. But thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. From me, Wendie V, and my co-host Rodrigo Bravo, we sincerely appreciate your follows, your likes, your subscribes, and your shares. Make sure that you're reaching out to us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day, and remember, keep changing the world.